Good morning, Happy New Year again, although it's already the second week of 2015. Ranjit, it seems like there's so much that we have to work on for the rest of the week. What with the events in the streets of Paris over the weekend, where up to 4 million French people and an assortment of world leaders came in support of the French. They had this incident over the weekend, over the last week, where they had this terror attack, and the watchword everywhere now is "Je suis this, je suis that, je suis Charlie, je suis Ahmed, and je suis Juve as well, because it has a sizable Jewish community who were at the receiving end of one of the attacks in the in the kosher supermarket. But what has come up for scrutiny was the personalities, the world leaders who were invited and who did turn up for the rally over the weekend. And there was Bibi Netanyahu from Israel, who has created a bit of a controversy by persuading, by giving the assurance to all the 500,000 Jewish citizens of France that should they feel the heat getting too much in France, they were welcome to emigrate to Israel. So that has created a bit of a backlash from the French. The French, as you know, has got a sizable Muslim community, which is 5 million of them, as opposed to 500,000 Jews. And a story, an unlikely hero, has come up from the kosher supermarket standoff, in which a Muslim French citizen of Malian descent, a black Muslim, has, it appears, had a big hand in ensuring the safety of some of the hostages in the supermarket, and he has been hailed as a hero, being a Muslim himself, and the fact that the supermarket was Jewish, the connection was not missed, and the media has made a great play of the fact that in times of trouble, it doesn't matter who you are, and that the people who were responsible for the incidents, according to one interview of one of the Muslim interviewees, his words were, these people were not Muslims, they were pretend Muslims. So that is the word which has been emanated from this incident. So we do hope that we do come to some kind of a resolution where an incident like this only brings people together rather than accentuates our differences. Of course, our neighbors, the Indonesians, today is also a big day, because after so many false starts, they have made the announcement that the black box of QZ8501, they know where it is, but it's lodged in between debris, maybe in silt, in mud, in 30 meters of water, which isn't too deep. It's a matter of the divers actually going down there and physically dismantling and picking up the black box to bring it up to the surface. The fact that it's taken so long, although the waters are not too deep, but the fact that the divers were working in very difficult conditions because of the swells and very heavy, the sea conditions weren't sympathetic to what the divers were wanting to do. We do hope, we wish them well, we do hope that by the end of the day we have good news about the black box being discovered. But the Indonesians have indicated that once the black box itself has been recovered, it would be taken to Jakarta, where they have the wherewithal, the technical ability to study the cockpit voice information, but only for the last 30 minutes of the flight. So we do hope that we get an indication of what happened to the plane in its last moments. On the international front, oil, Ranjit, is still cause for concern.
Yes.
We have indications that the Venezuelan president went to seek the audience of the Saudis over the weekend. Where are we headed with oil, Ranjit?
Okay, currently Brent is trading below $50 a barrel, so that is cause for concern, given that Malaysia's dependence on oil, especially Petronas government revenue comes from Petronas. 30% of it comes from Petronas. So lower oil prices means lower revenue for the government. Of course, this is cause for cheer for the people, as they can expect for lower prices at the pump. Currently, petrol is at 191 per litre. So given that prices have dipped below 50, and I think a recent report by Goldman Sachs said that they expect oil to hover around $50 to $60 for the rest of the year. So given the low oil prices, consumers in Malaysia can expect, I would expect the government to lower further the price of gasoline at the pump.
Our oil revenues, we get paid for our oil exports in dollars. With every passing day, the value of the ringgit as opposed to the dollar has taken a slide. What kind of a slide is this? What does it mean for our exporters, about those Malaysians who want to go overseas for a holiday? What does it mean to them?
Basically, if the ringgit continues its downward trend, but today it has recovered a bit. It's hovering around 354 to the US dollar. So this means that overseas travel will be more costly for Malaysians. But given the fact that we also depend hugely on tourism dollars, this will augur well for tourists who are coming to the country. So for them, Malaysian foreign exchange will be cheaper for them. So the governments, especially this year is the year of the festivities for Malaysia to promote tourism in the country. So I think if efforts are taken in the right direction to further enhance tourism in the country, this will augur well for the government's coffers for 2015.
Some quarters have pointed out for the need for our budget to be revised. There doesn't seem to be that level of urgency displayed by the government. At what point, oil being in the mid-50s now per barrel, at what point before the government holds its hands up and says, we have to revise our budget?
Actually, if we look at it from a very simplistic viewpoint, our budget was framed at US as $100 per barrel. So currently it's already half the amount. So
it follows then, if it's your income is going to be reduced by half.
Yes.
Well, maybe a little less in terms of numbers.
Yeah.
But you would be in a position to have to revise your spending plans.
Yes.
Shouldn't that be the case?
Yeah, that should be the case. So I think the government, in saving grace for the country this year, will be the goods and services tax, which will be replacing lost revenue from the drop in oil revenues. So that might also provide some kind of breather to the government in terms of revenue in goods and services tax.
Don't you think the government should be more proactive, because there have been talk about rebuilding efforts from the floods would take up to 2 billion ringgit.
Yes.
This magic figure of 2 billion is also the figure which has been bandied about as the amount of money which we would have lost, in inverted commas, through various mishaps on the corporate front. This in itself would be a spur for the government to and people out there, the chattering classes who are saying, we have got ourselves into a situation where we enter into business deals, corporate exercises, where the magic figure of 2 billion has been forgone, and this could easily have been used as the amount of money needed for our post-floods reconstruction. Which brings me to the vexed question of 1MDB. 1MDB has got a new chief, and he's a 38-year-old, one of those expats which Talent Corp would have done. I think I smell their
footprint.
Involvement in all this, in trying to attract someone who's a high flyer in the Middle East, in investment banking, merchant banking, and to attract him to come back and to take on the unenviable task of heading 1MDB. How much do we know of this new CEO? Arul?
Arul Kandasamy. He's a lawyer by training. and I think he has been in the Middle East for some time. He has brokered a few big deals there, big financial deals, mergers and all that. So he's got the experience to lead a sovereign fund the size of 1 MDB. But of course, previously under Hazim, to be fair to 1 MDB, all the critics or criticism levied at 1 MDB was not replied. And therefore it created a situation of more suspicion, suspicion against the fund. So I think one of the things that he has to
be fair, Ranjit, to 1MDB, the board itself, I think they came up with a written statement to rebut, not exactly to rebut, but to highlight their point of view. Because there have been, I'm sure there have been questions which a lot of people, a lot of business press locally have pointedly asked, but has not been addressed in their response. So those are the things which we expect the new CEO to do. But judging by his initial response to over the weekend, most of the business media claimed, many claimed to have one-on-one interviews, whether it's online, written. I doubt whether anyone actually secured a one-on-one interview, save for a few. I think one foreign business online publication, business organization, and maybe one local news media. But after the interview, after all the double-page spreads in many of the business press, I still find that a lot of questions need to be answered. It's still not been addressed, and the new CEO himself, well, to be fair to him, he did say that most of the terms of the loan deals and bonds that were purchased were subject to confidentiality agreements, which I think is fair, that those were the terms of your agreement in agreeing with your debtor. But the fact remains, 1MDB is your money, is my money. Yeah. So I do wish him well. Maybe Awani itself, maybe Ranjit might secure a one-on-one interview soon enough if the new CEO thinks that he wants to address the broadcast media. Yeah. I hope, Ranjit, you put in your request nice and early.
Yeah.
On a local front, school starts for most states, apart from the states in the East Coast, which school started yesterday. For the southern states who were not affected by floods, not all of them, school started today. So a lot of the attention is still on the schools in the flood hit states, where some schools are still not able to operate at full capacity, and I doubt whether much work is being carried out in classes at the moment, apart from actual cleaning up, because it's still, you have to see the extent of the damage to believe how devastating floods can be. Because I've seen pictures of mud as thick as up to a meter, which has caked to a situation where it's solid, because once it dries up, mud becomes clay and becomes as good as a building block. So what's needed, of course, I think it's heavy machinery rather than for anyone who is a volunteer to do back-breaking labor in order to break up the mud that has caked up to become solid, up to a meter thick. A bit of respite on the entertainment front over the weekend as well. We had this. Are you a K-pop fan?
No, I'm not.
You should be,
no.
Because in the eyes of Khairi Jamaluddin, you are just the very person that the Malaysian who would save Malaysian girls, especially student-led girls,
really, yeah?
from the arms, from the unwelcome attention of K-pop stars who Khairi Jamaluddin has been very, very
vocal,
and he came up with describing them as, I would say, the 3 Ps. Yeah. Pink, pale, and prissy. Oh. And also the word P can stand for many things. Oh, yeah. Some say pretty. He says, why do you want people who are pale, pink, and prissy as opposed to someone who's tall, dark, and handsome? And of course, he's referring to himself because he is the epitome of the Malaysian male who is tall, dark, and handsome. So from now on, I think there will be a bit of circumspection whenever concert producers invite K-pop stars to come to Kuala Lumpur to perform, because controversy of this nature, I think, would be quite unwelcome, and we have put ourselves in competition, Malaysian stars as opposed to K-pop stars. I'm sure K-pop fans would have something to say in response to what the minister has said, the way he's described their favorite stars, and I don't think he is in their good books at the moment. On the sports front, Ranjit, we have news about Cardiff City and the involvement of Tan Sri Vincent Tan.
Changing the jersey colours.
Yes, perhaps he ruled the day when he dared to meddle with the uniform of the Cardiff City football team. They were in red, as most sports fans would realize. Neighbouring teams, when they dress in red, they are more successful than the opposition that dresses in blue. I don't know why it is, but it's true. You only have to look at the city of Manchester for a very long time. The red half of United was more successful than the blue half of City. In Liverpool, the red half of Merseyside was more successful than Everton, which has always been languishing between when they look at the achievements of Liverpool. So Vincent Tan has, after a full year of the team didn't perform too well when it was in the Premier League. It's now in the second tier of the football league in the UK. So he's decided that for home matches, the team would return to its red kit, and for away matches it would be dressed in blue. So that is a halfway compromise which he has found between himself and the very vociferous Cardiff City fans. It's a happy solution for the moment because both sides are happy. One other thing to look forward to next week is, in fact, on Wednesday, CNN will interview our own Dato Rohana Rozhan, and we will also be given the opportunity to interview Christy Lou Stout, who is an award-winning anchor, and maybe we will learn a thing or two about journalism, CNN international style. So that's all we have this week. Thank you very much. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.